call me Mystic Mike because I predict these things.
Reinier de Ridder takes on Brendan Allen this Saturday as the main event of UFC Fight Night, Vancouver, Canada. This is a good fight between these two. Reinier de Ridder, since joining the UFC, had a bunch of solid performances. The GM3 fight in his debut was a little sketchy at times, not the best look, but ever since then had some really good performances, finishing Kevin Holland, Bo Nickel, and going 5 rounds with Robert Whittaker, getting that decision. Taking on Brendan Allen, who recently fought Marvin Vettori back in July, won that fight pretty convincingly. It was a good scrap, but before that loss to Anthony Hernandez and Nassour Imavov, he's taking this fight on short notice, replacing Anthony Hernandez, who was supposed to be taking on Reinier de Ridder. I was looking forward to that fight. Both those guys are very high-level grapplers. Anthony Hernandez's submission ability and pace versus Reinier de Ridder's size, his grappling ability, his toughness. So, but this is a good fight regardless. Brendan Allen is very well-rounded. Really good jiu-jitsu, really good striker. Probably the better striker than Reinier de Ridder. Probably not as good of wrestling and grappling, though. Reinier de Ridder, judo black belt, former 2-time champ at one championship. BJJ black belt, kind of clumsy on the feet at times, not the most polished guy, but he makes it work. He finds ways to win, finds ways to get a hold of guys, to hurt them in the clinch with knees. So this is going to be an interesting matchup between these two guys. Interested to see how Brendan Allen performs, knowing it's a 5-round fight. He's been in 5-rounders before, but doesn't always have the best gas tank. So taking this on short notice about a month in, I think that's a tough task. Tough task to take on somebody like Reinier de Ridder, who had the full camp, who was training for a very fast-paced fight with Anthony Hernandez, where he knows he's going to be taxed, he knows he's going to be pushing a high level, so or pushing a high pace. So I'm going to have to lean towards Reinier de Ridder. I think Brendan Allen, like I said, he's the better striker technically, but I think the grappling, the size, the grinding pressure, the knees and the clinch, and just the overall toughness of Reinier de Ridder will eventually take over in this one. Reinier de Ridder is absolutely huge for the division. He was the 205 champion at one championship as well as the middleweight, so he's going to be 6'4", going to have a 3-inch reach advantage in this one. Just going to be, he's usually the bigger guy, the bigger, rangier guy in his fights, and I think that's going to be a lot for Brendan Allen to overcome in this one. In terms of grappling, Jacob Malkoun, he was able to get the single legs against Brendan Allen, several times. I want to say like 3 times in that fight. And Brendan was going to all fours, looking to get back up to his feet, gave up his back a few times, was able to kind of scramble out because Malkoun wasn't really looking to land strikes or go for submission attempts. He was just kind of looking more to positionally control. And the guys that he's able to kind of scramble up against aren't necessarily submission hunting. The ones that are submission hunting, like the guys like Anthony Hernandez, they're usually the ones that are able to kind of keep him on the ground and keep him down and win fights that way by controlling him on the ground. Imavov, he was able to do the same thing. Brendan Allen gave up his back en route to getting up from Marvin Vettori in his last fight. So I think that guys have a really hard time getting up from Reinier de Ridder. He's long, he can land ground and pound using his long limbs. He just kind of stacks opponents and stands over them landing shots. And I think that if Brendan Allen gives up those positions that he has in the past against somebody like Reinier de Ridder, I think it could be lights out. I think he can get your back and finish the fight if he goes to all fours, gives up his back, or if he leaves any openings while he's trying to get back up to his feet. So I feel like RDR is just, he's very big, he's technical on the ground, and I feel like people spend a lot of energy underneath him. Like they're spending so much more energy than he spends. Like he's very technical, very methodical with this movement, and just kind of like a wet blanket on guys. He's the aggressor, moving forward, pushing the fight forward, and just kind of makes guys constantly have to react to what he's doing, which can really tax your gas tank. In terms of striking, RDR, he's not the most technical, like I said, but I feel like he's hard to land on crisp just because he does have that range. He is very long, dips his head well, kind of covers up, backs up out of danger a lot of the times. He's going to be the bigger guy, 2 inches taller, 3-inch reach advantage, but Brendan Allen's the better striker, but I think the RDR, he'll be the one kind of forcing the clinch, using his height, using his knees, using his underhooks while he's in close, and using those positions to turn it into takedowns and get it to the ground. He has a great step-in knee to the midsection. We saw that in the Bo Nickel fight, was just tearing him up to the body, and I feel like he'll be able to kind of charge in with the knees to Brendan Allen, who is kind of stationary at times, and look for the clinch from there. and he's one of those guys that he's not afraid to kind of storm in with his knees or looking for offense, just because he's not afraid to get taken down, because he knows he's very good off of his back. So I think that he'll be able to get a hold of Brendan Allen in close, get a hold of the wrist, get a hold of the underlock or the underhook. He's just very big, very rangy, kind of snatch up opponents while he's on the feet, just kind of use his size and his leverage in the clinch. And I think he'll be able to use his knees and his strikes to set up his single legs against Brendan Allen, which seems to be pretty effective in past fights against him. So if he's not able to get his single legs, I think that he'll at least be able to close the distance, get to the body lock, get to the clinch, and work from there. Using the step-in knee is very effective for Reinier de Ridder, because guys don't really have a choice but to just be defensive, and he kind of uses it to crash in and uses it to disguise his single legs, disguise his overhand punches. We saw that in his last fight with Robert Whittaker. So I think Brendan Allen needs to be like ripping uppercuts, knees as RDR comes in, just to defend against the takedown. RDR kind of dips his head at times as he crashes in, so not only can he use that to hurt him coming in, but use it as a natural underhook to defend the takedowns. But I just don't know if that's going to be enough to keep somebody like RDR at bay. We saw in the Whittaker fight, Whittaker is much more mobile. He has much better footwork than Brendan Allen, who again is pretty stationary in his approach to striking, and RDR was able to eventually kind of slow him down, track him down, and get a hold of him and get him to the ground. So that's one thing that we've seen is Brendan Allen does slow down, and with somebody like RDR on him, landing knees, putting a lot of pressure on him, making him grapple, making him strike, I think that he's going to eventually start to slow down to where RDR can start to implement his game plan, especially over 5 rounds. We've seen Brendan Allen gas at times, the Andre Muniz fight, Kyle Dawkins fight, Chris Curtis fights, like he gasses as the fight progresses, kind of comes out hard at first, but then as the fight gets into the later rounds, he's slowing down, and RDR has great cardio. He can push a high pace, even with taking a lot of damage. That Whittaker fight went 5 rounds. He got hurt really bad in that fight, and was able to push through and continue to kind of take over Whittaker as the fight went on. So another thing is RDR, he's very good at kind of resting and grappling scenarios where he's super heavy in the clinch, hanging on guys, making them work on the ground. He's making you carry his weight. So at times when he needs to rest, he can get a hold of you and he can rest while at the same time making you exert energy defensively, just kind of wearing on you. And he's resting and recuperating while you're kind of slowly losing your gas. So I think that Reinier de Ridder gets this one done. I just think that his strength of schedule, he has a lot of momentum right now. Huge win over Robert Whittaker just over 3 months ago, hopping right back in there. He's got a full camp, planning on going 5 rounds with a guy who knows that he's going to weaponize the cardio. So he's going to come in great shape. That his style is going to be able to kind of tax Brendan Allen not being in camp. And I think that he'll be able to get the takedowns over him. Brendan Allen getting, he was getting mounted at times by Marvin Vettori, and I just see him in too many precarious positions to believe that he would be able to survive those same positions against something like Reinier de Ridder, who's a monster on the ground. So I expect Brendan Allen to kind of start to fizzle out of this as this fight progresses and RDR to take over. Wouldn't be surprised to see RDR get him to the ground and submit him, but regardless, I'm going to go with Reinier de Ridder to get this one done. Thanks.